Earlier today, I had the chance to sit down exclusively with Vice President J.D. Vance at the White House. Covered everything from Kamala to Kimmel to Kirk. And, of course, the dangerous rhetoric Democrats continue to spew.
As somebody who understands history, when I see ICE, I see slave patrols.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks.
Folks getting snatched off the street by secret police who are wearing masks.
These people are terrorizing our communities.
Mr. Vice President, thanks for joining us tonight.
Good to see you.
Democrats have called ICE agents everything from slave patrols, kidnappers, and Nazis who are terrorizing communities. So we saw yet another shooting yesterday at an ICE facility. So what's your message to Democrats who keep spewing this type of violent rhetoric?
Well, it's to look in the mirror and stop this craziness, or you're going to get somebody killed. In fact, I think that a lot of them already have gotten somebody killed, namely my friend Charlie Kirk and a number of other folks as well. If you look at, it's not just the Democrats, Laura, the media is participating in this. I saw a story on NBC News just a couple of days ago, right before the ICE shooting in Dallas, and they were effectively accusing ICE of mistreating a 5-year-old child. Now, it turned out that story was completely fake, but if you read that headline and you were a crazy person, I could see how that could incite you to violence. So I think in a lot of ways, the Democrats and the media, because they so hate the idea of a real border, are engaging in a kind of blood libel against ICE agents. They're accusing them of engaging in crimes. They're accusing them of being part of the Gestapo. They're actually inciting violence against our law enforcement. They know exactly what they're doing, and now it's time to stop. Now, the shooting of yesterday, it turns out that the people who were killed were actually detainees, not ICE agents. I'm obviously glad that ICE agents weren't killed in that attack, but saddened that these detainees were killed, because though we don't want illegal aliens in our country, we also don't want them being shot at by crazy left-wing terrorists, which is, I think, what happened yesterday in Dallas. So all of this should have the left stepping back and saying, how can we actually contribute to a more reasonable conversation? Yes, we can criticize J.D. Vance's and Donald Trump's views on immigration, but we're not going to attack the law enforcement with libel and lies. We're going to make this a reasonable policy disagreement. I think that's how you tone down the rhetoric. Unfortunately, the Democrats show no willingness to do that. But again, if they don't stop, they're going to get more people killed.
Democrats' rising star, she's described as that, Jasmine Crockett, is one of the many refusing to tone down the rhetoric. Watch this.
I am using that language because it is accurate language. When we see them trying to chill speech of jokesters, when we're seeing all of this, that is a playbook out of Hitler.
Playbook out of Hitler, Mr. Vice President. Look, if we really thought Hitler was running the U.S. government, it would be our duty as citizens to try to stop that by any means necessary. So that is an example of what we're seeing today.
Well, that's exactly right. And a reasonable response to fascism, to Nazism, would be violence, right? So what they're saying effectively is that you should engage in violence because the regime, using Jasmine Crockett's words, are so bad. Look, this is obvious. They're obviously using the kind of rhetoric that turns the dial up to 10. They're trying to make this, they're trying to delegitimize our entire political worldview. But in the process, I think that they're motivating at least some crazy people to go out and commit acts of violence. And again, Laura, I'm a big boy. Criticize my views on immigration policy all you want. Criticize the president, criticize our administration. But when you lie about our ICE officers, when you encourage unmasking and doxing, when you encourage your followers to go and engage in violent protests against our law enforcement, you are by definition inciting violence against the men and women who keep us safe. That's what really worries me. It's not the criticisms of me. It's the criticisms of the people on the ground who are just doing their job. They're trying to keep us safe. They're trying to enforce our border laws. And they are being treated by terrorists by the Democrats in leadership in Washington, D.C. It's disgraceful, but more than that, it is inciting violence against our police officers, against our ICE officers. It's just got to stop. They're going to get more people killed. They've already gotten people killed. It's got to stop.
On a cultural touchstone, which also seems to be having a lot of political implications, is the Jimmy Kimmel issue. His second night back on the air, he called Donald Trump a bully.
For those who think I go too hard on Donald Trump, to the point where there are still a lot of people who think I should be pulled off the air for making fun of Donald Trump. So I want to explain that I talk about Trump more than anything because he's a bully. Donald Trump is an old-fashioned 80s movie-style bully.
Celebrities are rallying to his cause, saying this is a First Amendment assault being carried out by the FCC, Brendan Carr, and by the President of the United States himself. And to that you say?
Well, there are two things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number one, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good. So it is actually we should let these stations determine whether they want a non-funny comedian.
Why should the government chime in at all? I mean, doesn't it give them fodder for their argument that this is like a pressure because of the mergers that are coming up, and so this is the government kind of putting its finger on the scale? So why even mention Jimmy Kimmel? It's just helping him.
I think that Brendan Carr put out a couple of tweets or a couple of truths or whatever he did. That does not constitute government coercion, and it's pretty rich, Laura, coming from the Democrats after years of the Biden administration explicitly demanding that social media companies censor. You didn't hear anything from the Democrats. You didn't hear anything from these celebrities about free speech. But Brendan Carr putting out a couple of tweets constitutes the shutdown of Jimmy Kimmel's free speech rights. It's preposterous. There's something else that's important here, Laura, which is that these broadcast companies, ABC, NBC, CBS, they enjoy the public airwaves because they serve the public interest. So I actually think that we should be having a conversation about whether these companies are serving the public interest. That's actually totally separate from the Jimmy Kimmel issue, because nothing happened to him. He's currently on the air, and to the extent that he's not, it's because advertisers don't like him because his ratings aren't very good.
Well, he didn't apologize. Would it matter if he did?
I think it would matter. Actually, I'd love for Jimmy Kimmel to apologize to Erika and to all of the people that he slandered. He tries to say that he told a joke. He didn't tell a joke. He was actually accusing right-wing America, conservative America, of killing Charlie Kirk. We now know that is false. Charlie Kirk was murdered by a left-wing assassin who was radicalized by some of the rhetoric that we see coming from the far left. When you accuse the people who have been holding prayer vigils, who've been praying about Charlie Kirk, you accuse them of killing Charlie Kirk when we know it was a left-wing assassin. You're actually apologizing for his murder. You're encouraging more of that violence to happen. If we're going to stop this crazy strain of left-wing violence, we have to be honest about what it is. And the honest truth is that Charlie Kirk was not killed by a MAGA American. He was not killed by a Republican. He was killed by a left-wing radical. Let's be honest about that fact so that we can stop it from happening.
There were disturbing flyers found on Georgetown University's campus yesterday, put up by a leftist gun club with the phrase, "Hey, fascist, catch," which was the same engraving on the bullets near where the assassin was who killed Charlie. So what is your reaction to this? And is there a role that the federal government can play with these universities, given what's being done to perhaps incite violence against conservative speakers or conservative students or the few conservative faculty on these campuses?
Well, first of all, as a basic policy issue, if you are using federal dollars to incite violence against conservatives, you're not going to get those federal dollars anymore, and we're looking at that right now. So Georgetown needs to make sure that it's actually making it safe for everybody, whether they're liberal or conservative, to express their views. If you're promoting and encouraging violence, I think you're by definition violating the contract you have with your students. You're violating the contract that you have with the American public. But let's step back and just appreciate this. Okay, to engage in an act of political violence, of course, there's the person at the top of the pyramid who's pulling the trigger. That's the person that we're prosecuting. That's the person that we're going after that has to see justice. But there's also all the people who apologize for that violence. There's the people who celebrate for that violence. There are the people who fund the networks that actually encourage and promote that violence. We really have to dismantle the entire network of left-wing violence in this country.
What are we doing to do that, though, Mr. Vice President? A lot of conservatives are frustrated. They feel like the administration might be dragging its feet on this. Antifa is just one organization. There are many out there. But people want to see people go to jail for this.
Well, first of all, people will go to jail for this. But the President of the United States has made very clear we're taking a whole of government approach to this. We're looking at the funding networks. We're looking at the people who are inciting violence. We're looking at the people who are promoting and encouraging violence. That takes time to do it the right way, Laura. We're going to make sure that we do this the right way.
With First Amendment concerns.
Of course, you have to protect people's First Amendment rights. You have to protect people's free speech rights. But the First Amendment does not protect imminent incitements to violence. If you are actively promoting your fellow man to kill other people, that is not protected by the First Amendment, and we have to be clear about that. We have to go after that stuff. But look, Laura, you cannot celebrate the person who murdered Charlie Kirk and be welcome in polite society in this country. You are guilty of encouraging this culture of violence. You're guilty of actually promoting the culture of violence if you're celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder, if you're encouraging other people to take up arms in the same way. You may not be the person pulling the trigger, but if you're not being careful about the way that you incite violence, you are yourself part of the problem, and that's what we need to get to the root of.
Vice President J.D. Vance said he would love Jimmy Kimmel to apologize to Erika Kirk and the people he slandered after the late-night host returned to the airwaves Tuesday after a brief suspension. Kimmel's show was pulled from the air after his comments on Charlie Kirk's death drew backlash from conservatives and Federal Communications Commission Chair Brendan Carr, who warned the agency could take regulatory action. Kimmel tries to say that he told a joke. He didn't tell a joke. He was actually accusing right-wing America, conservative America, of killing Charlie Kirk. We now know that is false. Charlie Kirk was murdered by a left-wing assassin who was radicalized by some of the rhetoric that we see coming from the far left, Vance said Thursday during an interview on The Ingraham Angle. When you accuse the people who've been holding prayer vigils, who have been praying about Charlie Kirk, you accuse them of killing Charlie Kirk, when we know as a left-wing assassin, you're actually apologizing for his murder. You're encouraging more of that violence to happen. The vice president continued, "If we're going to stop this crazy strain of left-wing violence, we have to be honest about what it is, and the honest truth is that Charlie Kirk was not killed by a MAGA American. He was not killed by a Republican. He was killed by a left-wing radical. Let's be honest about that fact so that we can stop it from happening." Kimmel's September 15 remarks criticized the Republican response to Kirk's assassination, accusing the MAGA gang of trying to politicize it by portraying the shooter as anything other than one of them to score political points. Kirk's alleged assassin, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, surrendered to police and was charged with aggravated murder, 2 counts of obstruction of justice, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, among others.
Meanwhile, we're getting new details about the rifle allegedly used in Charlie Kirk's assassination coming to light now and could hinder the investigation.
Alexis McAdams is live in Utah with those details. Good morning, Alexis.
Good morning, Rachel. And so we are trying to get the latest details about that weapon, but investigators had already told us one thing that we knew a few days ago, was that they found the rifle out wrapped in a towel right near the shooting scene. So they had it, but what we didn't know was exactly how old it was. And it's important to point that out because police say the suspect might have chosen that gun because it was pretty much untraceable. I want to show it to you on your screen for people watching at home. This is what that weapon looked like, according to authorities. It's a Mauser model vintage rifle that investigators say is so old they didn't even have a serial number on it, so they wouldn't have been able to track it down. This is the weapon that police say Tyler Robinson used to assassinate Charlie Kirk that day. It dated back several decades, the gunman calling it Grandpa's rifle, texting his transgender partner after the killing saying this. I want to pull up these text messages because this whole thing had come to light too the other day. "I'm worried what my old man would do if I don't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't know if it has a serial number on it, but it wouldn't trace to me. I'm worried about handprints. I had to leave it in a bush, though, where I changed outfits. I didn't have the ability or time to take it with." And then he actually kind of stayed around the area, we're told, to see if he had the time to get it and take it to his car. Court documents say the Utah State Bureau of Investigations, who's working this case, found DNA from the murder weapon that they believe is consistent with Tyler Robinson. Police say Robinson also admitted in a text message that he shot and killed Kirk, texting back and forth to his partner, kind of giving a lot of information. Back out here live, while Robinson sits in that county jail behind me in Utah, his partner is cooperating with authorities, I'm told, so they're trying to get as much information as they can from that partner. At one point, though, Robinson texted, "I am sorry, I've just had enough of his hatred about Charlie Kirk. Some hate just cannot be negotiated out." And you just think about, Kirk's family hearing about these horrible details as they prepare for this huge memorial. So many people are going to focus on the good things that Charlie left behind as we try to figure out more about the gunman. Back to you.
A family member of Robinson told investigators that he had become more political in recent years and disliked Kirk's views, according to Utah Governor Spencer Cox. Clearly, there was a lot of gaming going on. Friends that have confirmed that there was kind of that deep, dark internet, the Reddit culture, and these other dark places of the internet where this person was going deep, Cox told NBC's Meet the Press. Kimmel's first monologue since his return has drawn more than 21 million views on YouTube as of Thursday evening. and averaged 6.2 million viewers, according to the New York Times.
The Mad Red Hatter wrote, "I can't believe ABC Fake News gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back." You can't believe they gave me my job back. I can't believe we gave you your job back. And there's more. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. No, they weren't. Something happened between then and now because his audience is gone and his talent was never there. We're right here, Jim. That I can't argue with. Shut the up. The freedom of speech is only for me. Do not interrupt the president. Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? Who puts the network in jeopardy? You hear that? There's the threat again. This time straight from FCC Biscuit's mouth. He goes, he says, "I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. A true bunch of losers." Only Donald Trump would try to prove he wasn't threatening ABC by threatening ABC.
His show is still being preempted by Nexstar Media and Sinclair, which own ABC-affiliated television stations.